Right, so what I am going to do today is I'll be creating a simple Node.js project, a very simple ones, right? And using Node.js, we would be learning some basic JavaScript, right? Simple how to create variable, ekhada loop, functions, right? Very very basic, right? This would be say maximum 30-40 minutes, not more than that, right? The objective behind this is will be you are learning only that much JavaScript which is required for the unit testing framework which we have to use, right? That is the basic objective behind this, right? So to do that, what I am going to do is I'll be creating a folder in my D drive, right? My folder is, I have created a folder called as SBJN lectures, right? Inside this I have a folder called as JS basics, right? Why I am telling you this is because I want you guys also to create such kind of a folder structure, right? Once you do that, right, what you have to do is you have to open this folder in command prompt, right? So what you should do is press a Windows R, type CMD and open a command prompt. That is how you open a command prompt, right? Once you do that, I'll navigate to first my D drive. So I'll say D colon. So D colon changes my directory. First I was in C drive, now I am in D drive, right? Inside this I would say CD SBJN lectures, right? Inside this I would say CD JS basics. If I do a dir, nothing is there. There is one file index.js. I'll remove that file so that we can start from scratch. Okay, now there is no file here, right? I'll again go to the command prompt, right? In this command prompt, what I am going to do is I'll be creating a Node.js project. I'll be creating a simple Node.js project, right? How to do that? I'll simply say npm init. npm stands for Node Package Manager. Node Package Manager, npm. Init is for initialization, right? So to initialize the first project, that is what we are doing. So I am saying npm init. Inside this, right, it will ask me different some parameters, let us say, right? The first parameter is package name. Just keep on pressing enter. I don't care about the package name as of now. Is this okay? Say yes, press enter, right? If I do a dir, what we see now is a file which has been created for us by npm, right? That file, it is called as package.json, JSON, JSON, right? Let us next thing what you should do is you should open this project in your VS Code, Visual Studio Code, right? How will you do that? Simply type code space dot enter, right? This will only run if you have Node.js installed and if it has been added to the path. अगर वैसा नहीं भी होता है, what you need to do is open your VS Code, go to file, say open folder and navigate to that folder, JS basics, right? Still you would be able to see that. Right, so these are simple things, no rocket science in this. Right, now if we see package.json file, right, what it contains some basic information about your projects. Right, so a project has name, you can give any name that you want, वो आप command prompt में भी दे सकते थे and you can also change it here, right? Again, no rocket science. This main index.js, this is nothing but the starting file which we are going to use. Right, so that is index.js, right? You can create any file, but that file should have a .js extension, right? That is important. Version number, again, it can be anything, but it ideally starts with 1.0.0, right? Then we have some script, no need to worry about it. Author, I can write my name, but I don't have habit of boasting, so I won't be writing that. And license, वो भी अपने काम का नहीं है, right? Let us not worry about that, right? So this is a kind of a JSON file, right? Now if you observe this correctly, JSON, you can dissect this JSON as a comma separated key value pair, right? So after every line, if you see there is a comma, right? It is not a compulsion that after every line there should be a comma, but after every key value pair there should be a comma, right? What is key value pair? The key is on left hand side of a colon, right? And the value is on right hand side of the colon, right? So every key and value, it is separated by a colon, right? So JSON is nothing but a comma separated key value pair, right? Then each key and value, it is separated by a colon, and the JSON is enclosed in curly braces. It is enclosed in curly braces, right? We'll come to that in detail later, right? But as of now, JSON is comma separated key value pairs. Each key and value, it is separated by a colon, and JSON is always enclosed in curly braces. Clear? Okay. Next is, what I am going to do is, I will be creating a .js file here, which is index.js, right? So what I will do, I will just click on this first icon. First icon, it creates a new file, right? यहाँ hover पे एक new file आता है. Second icon, it is a new directory, new folder, right? Third icon is refresh, I guess, and fourth icon, I don't know, collapse. वो बड़े का छोटा हो जाएगा, right? So I'll be creating a new file first, right? New file, I'll name it index.js. You can name it whatever you want, nobody cares, right? But a good convention is to write index.js. Right, now in this index.js, very first thing that we should ideally do is we should print hello world, right? So that is what we are going to do. We'll be printing hello world on console, right? So to print on console, right, JavaScript or Node.js, it provides us a function console.log, right? So I'll simply say console.log and I'll say hello world. I am giving a semicolon at the end, that is not a compulsion, right? You should save this file. I have auto save enabled, that is why it is automatically saved, but you should save that file, right, using Ctrl S. Next is, I'll run this file. How to run this? I'll go to my command prompt. In my command prompt, I have to get into the same folder in JS Basics. Here I'll type dir, I can see that index.js file, right? I'll simply say node index.js, that is node and then file name. So whichever file you need to run, right, just give it after node. I'll say node index.js, right? If I run this, we can see hello world getting printed. Ekdam simple and no rocket science in this, right? Okay. Next is, what we should learn is, let's declare some variables. Right, now to declare variables, as you said yesterday, there are three ways. One is using var, one is using let, third is using const, right? Let us start with var. So I'll say var a equals to 10. Right, now the basic difference between a JavaScript code and any other code, let's say a Java code or a C++ code or maybe a .NET code, is that your variables, we are not specifying any data type for our variables, right? Otherwise, in any language, C language, you have to specify. We write int a, float C, right? We do it that way, right? But JavaScript internally, it takes care of the variables, the data type, right? So it assigns the data type by itself, depending upon what value has been provided to it, right? So here integer has been provided, so the data type would be integer internally, right? If I have to print this, I'll simply say console.log a, right? How to run this? Again, node index.js. I can see 10 getting printed, right? Next is, I'll say let b equals to string value here, and I'll say console.log b. If I run this, I get string value here, right? So it is very simple language to learn, right? Interpreter based language, and it is really easy, right? Not at all difficult, right? So what we have done till now, we declared a variable using var, we have declared it using let. There is a difference in between var and let, but that is of no use to us, so let us not worry about that, right? The difference is in scope, where you can use which variable, where you cannot use. Let us not worry about that, right? Then, because it is a variable, right? Okay. Right, now if let's say I change the value of a, I say a equals to 20, right? And if I print this, what will be printed? 20 will be printed. Simple, right? It allowed us to change the value. Why did it allow? Because it is a variable. What is the basic property of a variable? You can always change the values, right? So that is what variable would mean, right? If I declare a variable using third type, using const, right? So how to do that? I'll say const c equals to 30, right? Then I do a console.log c, right? Then I do c equals to 40, then I do console.log c. Let's see what happens. Error. Why is it error? It says assignment to constant variable, means, and where is it giving that error? C equals to 40, right? The error is in C equals to 40, means the error is here, right? Clear? So because it is a constant, what does it mean? That its value cannot be changed. But during initialization, that is while declaring the variable, you can provide it the value, right? So any constant will have the value only once, otherwise you will not be able to change it, right? So I'll remove this, right? So these are simple ways of declaring variables, right? Now this is a very simple example, a very say just say a starter example of creating variables in JavaScript, right? Now let us focus on object, right? Let us try to understand what is an object, right? Now let us take an example. If I have to represent some number, if I have to represent some number in any programming language, right? What do we need to do? We need to declare a variable and assign that number into that variable. What happens internally is a memory is allocated, and inside that memory that value is pushed, right? Or that memory is that value is assigned, right? That is what a simple thing happens here, right? Now let us worry about, let's say if I have to store my name, how will I do that? I'll declare a string type of variable, right? I may or may not give the data type depending upon the language, right? Here we are talking about JavaScript, so let us not give any data type here, right? But if I have to do that in my say C language, so I'll have to create some string character array. If I have to do it in Java, I'll have to use string, right? And that way I'll have to do that, right? In this particular case, we won't do that. But again, there is a provision which JavaScript provides. What is that provision? The provision is that you can simply assign any value to it, right? In the same way, if I have to say store a value of a fan, right? I am giving any abstract object, right? What is fan? Fan is an entity, right? Let us assume that I have to create a project for fans. I have 10 fans, I have to represent all those fans, right? How will you represent them? Forget about programming, right? Let's say if I give you an Excel sheet and if I ask you to store the values of 10 fans, right? How will you do that? Model number. Those are names. What else? Company name, color, number of fins, right? Maybe cost, maybe type of the fan, whether it is a ceiling fan or it is a table fan or any cooler fan, any kind of fan, right? So what you would do is, you will have in your Excel, you will have the very first line would be some heading or the name of the columns, right? What are those columns? The columns are say the basis on which you describe that particular object, right? Those are columns, right? Excel में क्या होता है, आप ऊपर में columns देते हो, right? वो columns यानी क्या है? Those columns are nothing but the properties of any particular object which you are representing, right? Excel में वही होता है. उसके नीचे से फिर एक्चुअल फैन की वैल्यू जो है शुरू होगी. फैन भी छोड़ो, स्टूडेंट्स, तो स्टूडेंट में आप क्या दोगे? रोल नंबर, नेम या फर्स्ट नेम, लास्ट नेम, एड्रेस, कॉलेज, फलाना डिम का जो भी मोबाइल नंबर और कुछ ईमेल एड्रेसेस, ये सारे आप एक कॉलम बनाओगे, फिर उसके नीचे में आप सारे स्टूडेंट्स की एंट्री करना शुरू करोगे, तो वो कॉलम में उसके अकॉर्डेंस में वो एंट्री जानी चाहिए. अग्रीड? राइट. सो ईच लाइन इन योर एक्सेल except the columns line, each line in your excel represents an object. Each line represents an object. Same is the case with database. कोई भी database पकड़ो, MySQL लो, Mongo लो, अगर आपने कभी किया है वो, तो database में भी table में store होता है data, rows and columns, right? So each row in your table, right, that is an object, right? You can very well think of database like an Excel sheet, right? ठीक है. अब इस फैन को हमें रिप्रेजेंट करना है या स्टूडेंट को हमें रिप्रेजेंट करना है, राइट. सो जावास्क्रिप्ट प्रोवाइड्स मी अ वे टू रिप्रेजेंट दैट, राइट. व्हाट इज दैट वे? दैट वे इज जेसन. व्हाट डज जेसन स्टैंड्स फॉर? जेसन इज JSON, राइट. इट स्टैंड्स फॉर जावास्क्रिप्ट ऑब्जेक्ट नोटेशन, राइट. व्हाट डू वी मीन बाय ऑब्जेक्ट नोटेशन? ऑब्जेक्ट नोटेशन का मतलब इट इज वे टू रिप्रेजेंट एन ऑब्जेक्ट इन जावास्क्रिप्ट. दैट इज व्हाट जेसन मीन्स, अ वे टू रिप्रेजेंट एन ऑब्जेक्ट इन जावास्क्रिप्ट. दैट इज व्हाट जेसन इज. क्लियर इतना? राइट. नाउ इफ आई हैव टू रिप्रेजेंट से अ स्टूडेंट, राइट, यूजिंग लेट्स से बेयर मिनिमम 2 or 3 प्रॉपर्टीज. कौन कौन सी? एक रोल नंबर, एक नेम और एक कुछ मोबाइल नंबर ले लेते हैं, राइट. ये 3 इसमें हमने एक स्टूडेंट को रिप्रेजेंट करना है, राइट. हाउ कैन आई डू दैट? आई डिक्लेयर सम वेरिएबल, से where stu1 equals to a curly brace, right. Why curly braces? Because JSON is always enclosed in curly braces. Getting it?